Are you surprised at the guests, at the topics in Praying at the Speed of Love? I am. You might think, oh, Janet plans this, and no. Things arrive in divine synchronicity, and they're so perfect that there's nothing to do but say yes. And this is exactly what is happening with Praying at the Speed of Love, episode 14. I'm having an exquisite conversation with Mallory Vadoise, the brilliant author of Honoring Your Ancestors. Now, I didn't know Mallory, and I didn't know anything about this book. For that matter, I wasn't thinking about my ancestors. But I sent Kat Sanborn, the publicist at Llewellyn, an email, I don't know why, just saying, hey, is there an author you think I should have on Praying at the Speed of Love? She wrote back immediately and sent this book. It's a really fun book. Awakening you to the living presence of your ancestors. I mean, we know intellectually that they are in our bones, they're in our blood, they're in our wombs, they're in our DNA. Just where do you think you came from, right? Their stories, their history, even if, like, do I know my great-great-grandmother? No, but her stories, her sorrows, her joys, her beliefs get passed down generation by generation by generation. You're very alive in and with your ancestors, and they in and with you, but in our current patriarchal, although hopefully not for too much longer, patriarchal system, we don't really venerate the ancestors. You know, you think about your parents and you mourn your grandparents if you knew them, and that's about it. So this book was a revelation, but there was something else happening at the same time that made the synchronicity of this conversation, this author, this book, too perfect for words. Like this, there is no explanation for what happened. So I recently had this deep, visceral knowing that after living in Florida for 35 years, I'm finished here and I am moving. Came as a surprise to me. I'm not only moving, I need to be in New York State, somewhere along the Hudson River. Where the hell did that come from? But, you know, I have 22 years now of paying attention to my guidance. I pay attention to my body. I'm very clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairaudient. Okay, I'm moving to New York. I think I'll start by going to the library. And the librarian ordered a bunch of books for me, but the only one that was on the shelf was this little travel book about New York State. I'm sitting in the tub reading about New York State, and I decided to only read the section on the Hudson River Valley. And I turn a page and see this word popping out at me, Huguenot Street. Well, you don't know anything about Huguenot Street, do you? If my mother hadn't done my family's genealogy, I wouldn't know anything about Huguenot Street either. But my mother, after finishing a genealogy for her family, who are Irish and German immigrants in the city of Chicago, it's a very common combination in Chicago. Her mother's Cunningham, her dad König, if it's pronounced more Germanically. next, she decided to do genealogy on my father. And my father yelled at her, said, "Don't you touch my Blanken family." Mother didn't care. She went and did the research. And you have to remember, this is before the internet, before computers, before Ancestry.com. She had to send carbon copied letters to churches and graveyards, because that's how you do the research. And then was thrilled to give her 5 children each a copy of this genealogy for the Connor family, my father's last name. So it opens. She did this by hand. You know? There's pages and pages, but it opens with Philippe de Troyes. Mallory taught me how to say it. I had no idea how to say it. She could speak 5 languages, so I said, would you say that again? How do you say that again? And I'm sure I'm not doing it quite right, but Philippe de Troyes is my best approximation for how elegantly she says it. Well, Philippe and his wife Suzanne came in 1624. Came to America on July 17th. No. They got married on July 17th, 1621, and came to America it says 1624. And then my mother did the research. And I have apologized to her, dead in heaven, so many times for not appreciating this. This is the boat. They came on the second boat after the Mayflower on the New Netherlands. And they were French Huguenots, which is a real strict, not a very happy, kind of a pilgrim-like Protestant sect. So the word Huguenot might not mean a thing to you, but it makes me go, what? Because I did vaguely remember and keep this genealogy. So I jumped up, went in my shelves, and looked for it. So, Huguenot Street. The oldest street in America with its original buildings is now a National Historical Landmark. It's in New Paltz, up the Hudson River. Along its cool and shady, time-ripened blocks stand 6 stone houses built in the early 1700s, as well as a reconstructed 1717 French church and cemetery, a house, a library, museum, etc. It's the oldest street in America that's preserved. And if it's not my relatives, it's the relatives of my relatives. They came on the New Netherlands. So now I'm having a conversation with Mallory, and suddenly as she's talking about how to be in communion with the ancestors, and they want nothing more than to help you, I started losing it, realizing maybe they want me in New York. Maybe there's this. I mean, come on, where did this come from? Anyway, I think you might really enjoy this glorious conversation with this brilliant, young, raised Catholic, Italian witch. Also, she is a thoroughly trained in 2 or 3 other, an African and a South American, a Brazilian, indigenous, divine tradition. She's off the charts, spectacular, and totally understands that, well, yes, of course, your ancestors are helping you. There they are. So, and now the move to New York's easier because I'm just saying to my Huguenot ancestors, okay, I could use a little help here. If you want me on okay, I'm not getting on a boat to New York, so I think it's going to be a U-Haul trailer. But if you want me to put my feet, I know that when I put my feet on Huguenot Street in New Paltz, New York, my feet are in communion with my ancestors. I couldn't have planned this in a million years. And now I'm thrilled to give you on Thursday. What day is this? I'm sort of a wreck over my. Mallory's going live Thursday, September 19th. And she made an adorable video for us as a gift, chanting a Latin prayer of her ancestors, her Italian ancestors. Wonderful gift, wonderful conversation. And I just bet that when you start talking to your ancestors, they are going to start talking to you. And if anybody has Huguenot ancestors, please contact me right away. We can go walk on Huguenot Street together.